Hello and welcome back to Russ's Movie Corner. My name is Russ, and as you can see, I am sitting in front of my movie corner. I have my Star Wars The Last Jedi t-shirt on, my Last Jedi movie right next to me, and judging by the frame around me, we are back doing the Left Foot Media Redux, the 6 things that fans of The Last Jedi are getting wrong. This was the second video that I ever did on my channel, and I decided to come back and revisit it because there were a lot of things that I wanted to say. I went back and I watched it again last year, and I realized that there was a lot that I wanted to talk about, and I'm sorry that it's been so long since I've actually come back to this. So, on the last part, he was talking about how, people are in this honeymoon phase right now with the movie. This was right after the movie was released. But then after about a year or so, people will start realizing that, the movie's really dumb and it doesn't really, work and blah, blah, blah. It still holds up today. It's still a great film today, okay? And this is one of the reasons why we told people you need to go and watch the film. We're not saying that you need to sit down and watch the film because it's some high art thing or anything like that, like we mentioned early on in this series. We're mentioning that because a lot of people aren't watching the film because people like this are saying, hey, this is the crappiest, flippin' film we've ever seen in our lifetime, and we don't think that it's really that great. Even though they can't objectively say why that is, they just come up with dumb reasons as to why they think it might be dumb. But you have to come up with lore-related reasons as to why something isn't good. And if you're not going to come up with lore-related reasons, then there's no reason for us to sit around and try to talk to you, because it's okay for you not to like a film, okay? But it's not okay for you to tell other people that they can't like a film, okay? There are people who I've run into on Final Fantasy fan pages that absolutely love this film. I tell them it's a piece of crap. Okay? That's my opinion. This movie's a piece of crap. If they love it, fine. Now, I'll say this. The first few times I watched this film, I was in awe of it. And then one day, I was watching it, and I just suddenly realized, wow, there's no plot, characters are cardboard, everybody dies in the end. What the fuck is the point of this movie? Really? What the hell is the point of this movie? It's not that good of a film, objectively speaking. Okay? And I don't want to have to say that. I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy. Okay? I have pretty much every single Final Fantasy I can get my hands on. Okay? The only ones I'm missing right now are Final Fantasy 3, aka 6 for the Super Nintendo, the original Super Nintendo, Final Fantasy 1 for the original NES, okay? And probably 15. I have everything else. Even though I absolutely think it's objectively one of the worst Final Fantasies, I do have Final Fantasy X. Okay? I don't have the other 13-2 Enlightening Returns. Oh, come on, you. But I have 10-2. Yes, that's right, I have Final Montana 10-2. It's okay. It's not the best, but it's okay. I even have Final Fantasy XII. Not the Zodiac Age. I have the Collector's Edition on the PS2 that came out when GameStop was still a thing. Okay? It was a really good, really excellent game. I absolutely love it to death. And I also have Final Fantasy XIII. And just for completion's sake, even though I can't actually play it on that version, I have Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. Okay? So, yeah. I have most of the Final Fantasies. I also have Advent Children and Advent Children Complete. And though I haven't watched it because, I have no reason to because I don't have 15, I have Kingsglaive. Okay? So, and I figured, one of these days, when I get around to actually playing 15, once I get a PS4 and I get Final Fantasy 15, I'll watch Kingsglaive and then I'll play through Final Fantasy 15. And right now, my Xbox 360 is dead, so I can't honestly play through 13 right now. Which means I probably either have to get it from my PlayStation 3 or I have to get a new Xbox 360. That's beside the point. My whole point is that even though I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy, okay, I love Final Fantasy. I've loved Final Fantasy my whole life, okay, since I was about 10 years old when a friend of mine introduced it to me. I've absolutely loved Final Fantasy franchise, okay? And so when I saw that they were coming out with a movie, a CGI movie to boot, okay, and I mean, keep in mind, I have, I don't have all of them, but I have the first 3 CG Resident Evil movies, which are excellent, by the way, especially Damnation's probably one of my favorites. I just have to say, I was expecting so much, and I remember sitting there in the theater watching the movie and going, wow, this thing is amazing. Like, this is so good. Like, wow, this is really good. And then turning around after about 3 or 4 watches and going, wow, this movie just sucks. I mean, don't get me wrong, the CG is great and the music is good, but that's about it. The rest of it is just crap. But this isn't bad, okay? Objectively speaking, it's not bad because it fits within the greater lore of the Star Wars universe, as we've already discussed up to this point. So let's jump back in and see what Brandon has to say.
And I think that's what's going to happen in time, and people will start to realise as they come to their senses that you've got a whole lot of problems here that are objectively...
Well, okay, so then why is it that so many people still... so many people hated the prequels until these movies came out, and then all of a sudden now they hate the sequels and they love the prequels? Because wouldn't the test of time, they would still hate the prequels? I mean, a lot of the people that up to about, a week before the episode 7 came out, okay, were bashing prequels. Oh, the prequels are crap. Oh, the prequels suck. Ah, prequels. Ah. And then episode 7 came out, and I remember sitting in the theater, and I turned to my retired Marine buddy, and I said, yo, dude, this movie's going to become the new episode 1. And he goes, no. And I said, yeah, it will. I said, they're going to start hating this one, and they're going to start loving the prequels. You watch. And literally within a week, there were so many things about people going, these suck, these are horrible, And then, lo and behold, those people that were hating the prequels 2 weeks before were now, oh, the prequels were so awesome. Oh yeah, we've only told you that for 20 fucking years. Because us true fans love them no matter what. So no, this isn't going to be one of those. Okay? Because I can guarantee you that when the new Jedi Order movie drops, people are going to come back to these and go, oh, as cruddy as they are, they're not bad. I mean, this new Jedi Order stuff, this is crap. But, those aren't bad. I'm predicting it right now. Okay? Because everybody that jumped on the sequel hate bandwagon with Episode 8, okay, refused to go see Solo. Even though us fans were telling them, no, you need to go watch Solo. It's such a great film. No, it sucks. We're not doing that. Finally, after about a year or two, back in 2021, late 2021, early 2022, I was part of some Star Wars groups on Facebook, and some people came along and they went, I watched Solo the other day, and it's such a good film. And we're like, we told you. They're like, I wish I'd seen this in the theater. We're like, we wish you had too, because they would be making the sequel right now, you bastard. Literally, they'd be making the sequel. So let's see what objectively here means.
flawed in the telling of the story of The Last Jedi. Things like setups and teasers from The Force Awakens that were never ever delivered on. And by the way...
Oh, okay. This was something I brought up in my original video. Okay. Every trilogy has this. Okay? And when you're in the middle part of the trilogy, you're never going to have the payoff. Ever. Because if you have the payoff too soon, no one's going to watch the third film. Ever. So, you have setup, revelation, payoff. Okay? So, let me grab our good old trusty episodes 4, 5, and 6 here. A New Hope. What's our setup here? Well, our setup is we have this guy, Luke Skywalker. Okay? There's this villain. Okay? His name is Darth Vader. Obi-Wan reveals that he was part of the Jedi Order and that Luke has the Jedi power. Okay? And then it sets up the characters of Princess Leia and that. And then the final battle is against the big bad Death Star. Luke makes the Death Star go boom. That's the setup. Episode 5. Revelation. Okay? We find out that Mr. Dark Mask here, Darth Vader, was really Anakin Skywalker the whole fucking time. That was the revelation of Episode 5. Okay? And it was such a shock to Luke, because what was he told by Yoda and Obi-Wan the whole entire time? That Vader was just some dark force user who killed his father. Because that was the setup, right? That was the setup. Obi-Wan told him, you know, a young pupil of mine, who, until he turned to evil, betrayed and murdered your father. So Luke thinks, hey, you Dark Mask, you killed my father. No, I am your father. Holy crap. Revelation. Okay? And of course, in the hero's journey, the hero's guard. Payoff. Return of the Jedi. So in the payoff, okay, it's revealed that yes, Anakin Skywalker was the man behind the mask, and that, you know, he fell to the dark side because he couldn't control himself. Okay? Which is what we learned in the original, in the prequel trilogy, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the payoff is that Luke then has to go and confront his father to turn him back from the dark side and to kill the Emperor because reasons. Okay? Because he's the only one that can do it. Because he's the last Jedi. Okay? Ha 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 ha. Yes. He's the last hope for the people. Okay? That's the revelation. Okay? You have setup, you have payoff, you have revelation. Okay? Now, get over here. Prequels. Setup. 32 years before the Battle of Yavin. Okay? Give or take a year or two. The setup is, here's Obi-Wan, his mentor Qui-Gon, you have this gal, Queen Amidala, and this young boy named Anakin Skywalker, who was born a slave, okay, and was born of the midichlorians because he's going to bring about the prophecy, that some magical prophecy that's going to happen. Okay, typical stuff. It's a setup. Okay, Anakin Skywalker reveals his piloting skill, beats Sebulba in a pod race, does a whole bunch of things, helps Naboo win their freedom. Okay, cool setup. Revelation, 10 years later. Okay, Anakin Skywalker, now all grown up, okay, has his mentor Obi-Wan Kenobi helping him. Okay, he starts to fall in love with Padme. The revelation is because he's the tragic hero, the revelation is that his mom was taken by Tusken Raiders and and tortured and killed. And he kills all of them. And that was kind of his first major step down the dark side path. Okay? And so that was kind of revealing who he's supposed to become. Okay? That is the revelation. That he let his anger get the better of him. And instead of going to Obi-Wan and saying, Obi-Wan, I did something really horrible on Tatooine. Okay? Like, really horrible. Like, my mom died on Tatooine and I killed all of the Tuskens in the camp where she died. What do I do? Well, Anakin, let's go back to the Jedi Temple. Let's talk to the Jedi Council. Let's figure out what we need to do to kind of purge you of that darkness. I don't think Obi-Wan would have been that mad with him. I think Obi-Wan probably would have understood because Anakin loved his mother. I mean, that much is clear because there's a scene early on where he's like, you look tired. He's like, I don't sleep much anymore. He's like, because of your mother. And he's like, and you can see the trouble on his face. He knows something's going on. Okay? That's the revelation. Payoff. The final duel between brothers. The revelation that Darth Sidious has been manipulating things behind the scene the whole entire time. That he was behind everything, including the war. That Anakin married Padme and they're having kids. And that finally Anakin becomes Darth Vader. That's the payoff of the prequel trilogy. Is we finally get to see him become the darkness that we see in the original trilogy. Okay? That his son fights to bring him back from the brink because he wasn't fully on the dark side. He never was. Got it? Setup. Okay? Whole new galaxy. There's a thing called the First Order. There's this enforcer of Supreme Leader Snoke by the name of Kylo Ren. We don't know much about him at first. There's this girl on Jakku. And there's a stormtrooper. Okay? Introduces some new characters. And then brings in some of the old ones like Han Solo and Princess Leia. Okay? And you have Poe Dameron, this hotshot pilot. Okay? The setup of this movie is that Rey has the Force, although she doesn't know what it is. Okay? Because I think what her parents capped her Force power so that the Emperor couldn't find her. We'll get to that. Okay? But anyway, that's the setup. Okay? She has the use of the Force, and then she uses it to escape Starkiller Base, and then they go out, and then it's revealed also that Ben Solo is Kylo Ren. Okay? Leia and Han's son is Kylo Ren, the Enforcer. Okay? And he's kind of like trying to entice Rey to join him. You know, you need a teacher. Okay? Setup. Revelation. Revelation. Okay? The revelation in this movie, there's two main ones. One, Rey's looking for her place in the galaxy. Okay? And she thought she was going to find it on Acto with Luke. Okay? She thought that Luke could help her find her place. But it turns out that's not going to happen. Okay? Turns out it just wasn't going to be the best, the best thing for them. So, that happens. Also, we get a slow reveal of what happened at the Jedi Temple all those years ago. That Luke Skywalker, okay, in a fit of pique, thought that he could stop the coming darkness by succumbing to a moment of anger. But it didn't work. It actually served to push Ben over the edge to become Kylo Ren and drop the house on Luke. Okay? And in his shame, Luke ran away. Okay? And vowed that he would never train anything else. And the revelation comes in the form of the scene where he's going to destroy the tree, and Yoda burns it already with the lightning bolt. And then he's like, Luke, you have to understand. I told you to pass on what you have learned. Yes, all of the Jedi stuff is good, but also failure. Okay? Because that's what they need to learn to grow beyond. Because he says we are what they grow beyond. Okay? So, he helps the Resistance stay alive and helps Rey realize her potential at the end. Okay? Setup, revelation, payoff. Turns out Emperor Palpatine was alive. Who knew? Oh, that's right. The Legends EU did. Because of Dark Empire. They basically just ripped that story right off that page. And so Rey has been training under Leia. Okay? And she kind of is frustrated because she wants to do more. Okay? And she starts to lose her temper at moments, and basically, like, Kylo Ren forces her to lose her patience and destroy a craft of the First Order that she thinks Chewie is on, so that she would come to him. Okay? They finally track down, on Keth Bir in the Endor system, they finally track down the remnants of the original second Death Star from Episode 6. They go there, and Rey has a vision of herself sitting on Palpatine's throne as a dark Sith witch, basically. And she's like, I don't want to be that. And then she and Kylo have a fight, okay? Because Kylo crushes the Sith Wayfinder. And so she beats him, and she says, I did want to take your hand in The Last Jedi. She says, I did want to take your hand. Ben's hand. Ben comes to the realization that he's been fighting against his light side self for years. Ever since he became Kylo Ren. And he doesn't want to have that anymore. So he becomes Ben Solo again. And then he comes back to help Rey in the fight against Palpatine. And that's the payoff in this film. Okay? And then also the fact that the galaxy's had it up to here with the First Order, and so and now the new Sith Empire, and so they come in and they destroy everything. Okay? It's a great story, I love it. Okay? But again, setup, revelation, payoff. So yes, there were things, there were questions, there were things that were not answered in this movie that were answered in this film because it's part of a damn trilogy. Duh. I mean, that'd be like saying, well, gee, we didn't get any answers about Smith in Matrix Reloaded, so why bother go seeing Revolutions? Probably because you'll get the answers because it's part of a fucking trilogy, you moron. I mean, that'd be like watching this film, okay, The Two Towers, and then going, well, they didn't destroy the ring. What the hell? Did you bother to read the last part? Or watch the last part? It's a damn trilogy, you moron! Now, I can understand if it was a duology, where there was only going to be 2 films. Okay? I could understand saying, you know, okay, there were certain things that they didn't answer in this movie. That'd be fair if it was a duology, but it's not a duology, it's a trilogy.
That's not fanboys making stuff up in their minds. That's the original film in this new trilogy.
No, it's not. That is you making up in your mind that everything that was supposedly told in the setup phase was going to be paid off in the second film. Without any revelation. Because remember, we're in the revelation part of this, right here. Setup, revelation, payoff. Son. Setup, revelation, payoff. You don't get the payoff till the third fucking film. You don't get the payoff in the second film. It would have been stupid if Frodo had marched up Mount Doom and destroyed the ring in the middle of the 2 towers. It would have been pointless. What would have been the point of Return of the King? There would have been no Battle of Pelennor Fields. There would have been no, heroic save by the Rohirrim. There would have been no destruction of the Witch King because he would have already been dead. What the hell, man? Come on. Think about it. Really let it marinate. There is no other way to do a trilogy. Because if you pay off in the second film, there's no third film. There's nothing. Nothing there. That's called painting yourself into a corner. Okay? Or writing yourself into a corner. And Rian Johnson wasn't about that. Idiot.
Setting things up that are then not delivered or are poorly executed in this movie.
What was poorly executed in this movie? What was poorly executed in this movie? You'll notice that he doesn't actually say what was poorly executed. He just said, "Oh, things were set up in the first film that didn't have any thing were poorly executed." Okay, what was poorly executed about it then? I didn't see anything that was poorly executed in this film. Are you sure you watched the film? Because I don't think you did. That's the reason why we've been telling you, go back and watch the damn film.
You've got plot holes in The Last Jedi and pointless subplots that kill the pacing of the movie.
Like what? Like what? What was pointless? What killed the pacing of the movie? Nothing killed the pacing of this movie. This movie went along at a really good pace. What, are you talking about Canto Bight? That was to set up... That was to establish Rose as a character. Okay? And that didn't kill the pacing of the film. Because they needed a place to go. They needed a thing to do. Okay? Because they were trying to get the fleet to be able to go to hyperspace so that they could get away from the First Order. Again, did you watch the fucking film? I'm guessing you didn't.
You've got ideological preaching instead of a story that reflects meaningful heroism and virtue, which is something that was part of the original Star Wars. And that's why this new film, The Last Jedi, is just receiving so much criticism, I think, from a lot of people, is because it's got no heart. It's got lots of ideological preaching, but it's got no heart.
Okay, what ideological preaching? Are you talking about all of the rich people that are profiteering off of the war between the Republic and the First Order? On Canto Bight? Is that what you're talking about? Is that because that was the only ideological preaching, okay, lest we forget that there was a lot of ideological preaching in the first 3 films. There was a ton of ideological preaching in the first 3 films. Hell, George Lucas called the Empire space Nazis. Okay? Which means that if they're the space Nazis, then the First Order is the space Soviets. Old my vodka. So again, a lot of bluster, but absolutely no... He doesn't even, like, mention what is or isn't or anything about it. There's no specific facts. There's just, it just has no heart. Okay. Where is the heart missing? Okay. Because it's still the same swashbuckling adventures that we saw from the original cast. There's still a lot of the same stuff. There's a lot of the similar lore from the expanded universe that was brought in to try to tell the story and sell the story to the people who had grown up reading those books. So if anything, maybe you should put the blame on the idiots that wrote these stupid stories in the Legends EU and not on Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams for their storytelling of poorly executed ideas in that timeline. Think about it. Because if anything, Luke Skywalker's character in that universe is so poorly written. He is not the best Jedi ever, even though people prop him up as. I mean, he sends others to do his dirty work. He constantly fails at everything. He's had so many people fall to the dark side and come back and then fall again and then come back and then fall again, and it is absolutely idiotic. He sends others on missions that he himself could fully participate in, but doesn't. Looking at you there, Jedi Academy. Okay? So no. You don't have a leg to stand on, Brandon. Because you don't understand the lore. And the lore proves you wrong. Because if anything was poorly executed, it was the ideas that were brought forth in the expanded universe that then got turned into this trilogy. With one exception, that is, Palpatine apparently had a kid at some point. Who then had a kid that became Rey. Because they left her on Jakku to save her life. Okay. That's about the only new story element outside of maybe Starkiller Base. Which is loosely based on the Sun Crusher. Only because instead of having something that was like pretty much unkillable, they had it where it was mostly unkillable but used the power of a sun. Like it would literally drain the sun of its own energy to fuel its hyper weapon, which literally shot beams across hyperspace lanes. Which is why you could see it from other planets. Okay? Like, why they could see it from Takodana when it was shooting. Okay? Because the Sun Crusher kind of did the same thing. The only difference was that the Sun Crusher, okay, imploded suns. It basically, it did the same thing as the weapon in this movie. That Malcolm McDowell's character shoots. That destroys the stars. Okay? Trilithium weapon or whatever it is. Where they they shot it, and then it, it's like it entered into the star, created an implosion, and then a supernova. Okay? That's what the Sun Crusher was. But if anything, that's all Starkiller Base was. It was basically a Sun Crusher. The only difference is that instead of imploding suns to blow up all the planets, they used the power of a sun to shoot planets across the galaxy. So they didn't have to move the planet at all. They didn't even have to put a hyperdrive generator on the thing. All they had to do was just move it into a system with a sun, drain the sun of its energy, and then just from that system, shoot the planet. Shoot the weapon at any planet in the galaxy that they wanted to. Which is exactly what they did to the Hosnian system. And yeah, they had to have a way to destroy it. Hence, thermal oscillator. And yeah, he flies down a small little trench, flies through the hole, blows some things up, a la Rebel Assault, and then flies back out, and then the whole thing explodes. Which is exactly what has happened in almost every single Star Wars game and medium ever. With the exception of the Sun Crusher. But what would you know about that? Because obviously, you don't fucking know the lore.
There's no heroes here. There's no self-sacrifice. There's no virtue. It's just people telling us about these things, but they're not really being presented on screen in a...
Like, what kind of self-sacrifice are you talking about? Like, the only self-sacrifice that Luke ever did, okay, was when he went to face the Emperor in Episode 6. Which is exactly what Ben and Rey do in Episode 9. In Episode 8, Rey kind of does similar to what Luke did in Episode 5. She goes off to try to save Ben, okay? Now, Luke left his training because he wanted to go and destroy... Luke wanted to go and destroy... he wanted to go and save his friends, okay, and fight the Empire. He didn't want to stay on Dagobah and train, okay, because he saw Han and Leia and Chewie being tortured, okay. And so he was like, oh my gosh, I gotta run off. I gotta help them. What does Yoda tell him? Don't go. And he's like, you say I should sacrifice Han and Leia? If you honor what they fight for, yes. Because he was telling him that sacrificing certain people now will save millions in the long run. Because Luke would have been told at the end of his training, he would have been told, by the way, that man in the black mask, the Darth Vader, is your father. He would have been like, oh, okay. He's my father. Alright. Now what do I do with that information? Go and defeat him. Okay. How? Pretty simple. We've given you the training. All you have to do is execute it. Just go there, confront him, do what you need to do. He didn't do that. He ran away, like he always did, and he got his hand chopped off, okay? And he learned a terrible truth that he was not ready for. In fact, Yoda tells him this. Okay? He says, unexpected this is, and unfortunate. Luke gets angry. Unfortunate that I know the truth? He goes, no. Unfortunate that you rushed to face him. That incomplete was your training. Not ready for the burden were you. And suddenly Luke realizes, oh, I was an idiot. And he apologizes to Yoda. I'm sorry. Like it matters now. Rey does something similar. She senses, because just like Obi-Wan had failed to sense the good in Anakin because all he saw was the monster that Anakin had become in the dark side, that was the same thing that Luke was seeing in Ben. He was just seeing Ben as just a dark side monster who killed Han. Okay? But Rey could still sense good in him, and so she was like, I can turn him back. And they confront Snoke together. It's the same thing as Episode 5, just told in a slightly different way. Okay? It's... This guy doesn't really understand lore. That you're not going to get the payoff in this film. The payoff comes in Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. But this guy's expecting everything to come to a head in this part. Well, then what the hell would Episode 9 be about? Who knows? I mean, this guy surely as hell doesn't.
Meaningful way to us, unlike the first trilogy, for all of its flaws. You have main characters who are woefully underdeveloped or even badly written in this. You have a lack of tonal consistency, and a lot of that is due to the humour in this particular film. You've got a Star Wars movie that has effectively got jokes in this movie. It's meant to be a serious Star Wars film that's got jokes that were or could have been written for a Seth MacFarlane Family Guy Star Wars parody.
Like what? Like what? Like what jokes are out of place? I don't understand what jokes were out of place. I mean, they had jokes in the original trilogy. They had jokes in the prequel trilogy. What jokes were out of place in this film? And what's wrong with the Family Guy parodies? They were hilarious. That was probably actually the filmmakers paying tribute to them by putting in a couple of those type of jokes. Okay? You can pay homage to other people while still keeping the tone fairly consistent. That's the thing. This movie was not beyond the normal Star Wars style. I mean, apparently this guy's never actually watched a Star Wars film if he thinks every single Star Wars film was just so serious. Have you seen fucking Star Wars, man? I mean, really, have you sat down and watched Star Wars? Because I don't think you have. I don't think this guy's ever watched a Star Wars film in his life. I honestly don't. I would be surprised if he could recall one moment from any Star Wars film. Just one. Okay? So I don't think he could do it.
You've got parody humour in a Star Wars film.
Like what? What parody humor was there? What parody humor? I am struggling to find parody humor in here. Let me see. Opening sequence, you have him blowing up the cannons. I'm with a droid on this one. They bomb the thing. She slaps him. That was kind of funny. Then you see him throw it. What are you talking about? Finn naked leaking bag? Where Finn comes up out of his thing and he thinks he's in the forest and he's just walking along carrying the Bacta because nobody thought to help him because they're all trying to run and do stuff? Is that what you're talking about? He's like, Finn naked leaking bag? What? Oh! Like, how is that parody humor? That's not parody humor. I'm struggling to find what the hell he's talking about. And then there's that. I mean, let me see here. You're demoted. We'll talk about that. She saves herself. Chewie takes the door off the hinges. I'm just trying to figure this out. What the fuck is going on here? Let me see here. Resistance bombers, resistance starfighters. Are you talking about with General Hux? No, that was just him showing. That was just Snoke showing Hux who's boss. Captain Kennedy gets killed. The Supremacy. Supreme Leader Snoke got them on the end of a hook. You failed, Rose. She just shocks him. Vice Admiral Holdo's just Vice Admiral Holdo. Are you talking about her blowing a hole in the side of the hut? That doesn't make any sense. That's not parody humor. I was cleaning my blaster and it went off. I've seen your schedule. You are not busy. Chewie trying to... I mean, are you talking about Chewie trying to eat the porgs? Because, I mean, he just was trying to have a meal. Yeah, Canto Bite, and the police, and then the casino, the Master Codebreaker, the Fathiers, DJ, the Infiltration, Phasma. Yeah, there's nothing, there's no... I mean, I'm not seeing anything, son. I think, honestly, you're just an idiot, to be truthful. There was no parody humor that I could see in there, and if there was a tiny bit of parody humor, it was probably likely a tribute to the Family Guy Star Wars specials, which, if you guys haven't seen them yet, I actually have them right here. This is episode 4, this is episode 5, and this is episode 6, okay? And they are absolutely hilarious, okay? Because Stewie plays Vader, and, Chris is Luke, Peter's Han, Lois is Leia. Yeah, they have, like, a whole bunch of other things. Chewie's Brian. C-3PO is, the guy says giggity all the time. Quagmire. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things like that. But anyway. That and the Robot Chicken Star Wars special, I think, are probably two of the best ones. But I don't know of any parody humor in episode 8. And like I said, if there was, it's likely an homage to the Family Guy specials, just to kind of say, we see you, Seth. We know what you did. And we appreciate it.
Doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You have got a second film here with almost zero plot arc. The characters are effectively in the same place at the end of the film as where they were at the beginning of the film.
No, they weren't. You have Finn, who has effectively grown up. At the beginning of the film, he's still the naive stormtrooper, and by the end of the film, he is not the naive stormtrooper anymore. He is effectively grown up. Luke became a Force ghost because he sacrificed himself to save the Resistance. Okay. Rey has become a more mature person. She's not the naive little scrounger, okay, that she was. She's a lot more grown up, and that's evident in episode 9 as well. Because when she goes out and she's like, I will earn your brother's lightsaber, she does. You have Poe, who tries to make the best decisions, but ends up failing because he wasn't following the orders that he was given. Okay? And that partially falls on Admiral Holdo's shoulders. Because Admiral Holdo should have taken him aside and said, here's what the plan is. We cool? Alright, now get out of my sight. Because then he wouldn't have done what he did, trying to send Rose and Finn off on their own. Okay? Because he thought he was doing it to save the Resistance. So that's a lot different than what this guy's trying to say, that there's no story arc. There was a story arc. He just missed it because it wasn't what he would have done. Okay? In fact, even Kylo Ren, by the end of the story, is a bit more mature in terms of him coming to grips with his father's death a little bit, and then coming to grips with the fact that Rey is not interested in Kylo Ren. She's only interested in Ben. Okay? Even though he keeps offering, she's not interested in the man behind the mask. Okay? I mean, and that's why he destroys the mask, is because he's angry at Snoke. Okay? And because Snoke is kind of holding him back at that point. So he even grows over the story. So to say that there is zero character growth in this movie is absolutely idiotic. It means that this guy doesn't know what the story is, nor has he actually watched the movie. He went in with a preconceived notion, and whatever his preconceived notion was, the story delivered, but it wasn't what he wanted, and so he's going to sit there and say, oh, this movie sucks, meh. Okay? Let's do a tiny bit more, and then we'll call it an episode.
Zero development, really. I mean, some changes, but they're in the same place from beginning to end of the film.
No,
and you've also got this film that doesn't really feel like the second film in a 3-part trilogy.
How? How does it not feel like the second part of a 3-part trilogy? It picks up exactly where the first movie left off, okay? And it ends with the Resistance still being alive on the Millennium Falcon, and they're heading off to rebuild the Resistance in preparation for Episode 9. So, what the fuck are you talking about, son? What the hell is he talking about? Did he even watch this film? Because I'm beginning to question if he even watched this film. If we even watched the same Star Wars film. Did you watch, like, the Clone Wars 2008 and think it was Attack of the Clones? Or something? Like, what the hell is wrong with you, man? You don't even understand. If you missed that much of the story, you need to go back and actually watch this fucking film. Because it tells me that Brandon here has never watched a Star Wars film in his entire life. Because if he's this far off from what the story actually is, and saying, oh, it doesn't feel like the middle part of a trilogy, well then what the hell is it? Because that tells me that you've never seen Episode 2 Attack of the Clones or Episode 5 Empire Strikes Back. Because if you had, and then you watch this film, you go, oh, I get what they're doing. Clever, clever. Because it's all there. But obviously this guy missed it because he doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below, let me know what you think of this series so far. Sorry it's been like 6 or 8 months since I did the last one. I've been doing other things, and I'm going to be doing some other things pretty soon. As of filming this, within another couple weeks, I'm probably going to be doing the Sword and Sorcery Ancient Chronicles Let's Play of Quest 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up, and then I'm going to have the whole thing ready, and then I'm going to film like a chunk of stuff. And then I will, and then I'll try to get Quest 3 done, and then we'll go on from there. Okay? So, as we say, we will see you on the next one.